Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Red Method. My name is Whitney Red, and I'm a third grade educator here in Oakland, California. Today's episode is going to be discussing building a growth mindset through being a method mother or a method matriarch or a method patriarch. And so there's been a couple of names thrown around over the years. Zaretta Hammond calls it the warm demander. CTC or C2C calls it the no nonsense nurturer. And so I created method mothering, method fathering, or whatever. So it really is a system of high expectation through very intentional positive narration and building up our students' growth mindsets. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I do for rapport building and how this is fundamental. I touched on it briefly last week when I was talking about relationship skills. And one of the biggest things as educators is that we build relationships with our students. So it's not that they are just building relationships with one another, but that we are in fact getting to know them, valuing who they are as people, valuing their opinions, their perspectives, their histories, their funds of knowledge. And so all of this is important, and you can't move forward with children in a successful way without getting to know them. Knowing your students is fundamental, and not just their academic success or failures. You want to talk to them about things that matter to them. You're very intentional about having conversations with them about the things that matter. Okay. And so it's interesting because a lot of teachers, like, I'll ask them a follow-up about their student because I'm nosy. I want to know everything. Like, if they're like, oh, they're having an issue with this or something else, I'm like, oh, interesting. Can you tell me more about his history or her history, or what's her family life like? Oh, or blah, 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 blah. And a lot of times there's no answer. I know so much about my kids. I tell them I am nosy. I want to know your life. I want to know your family. Sometimes I say pause because they want to tell me all about the drama in their lives, but I just really want to get to know them. I want to understand them so that I can relate to them and I can build up them as humans, understand when they're having a hard day, understand why they might not be motivated to do something, just, get an understanding for who they are so that I can address their needs in the moment. The better I know them, the better I can prepare for them, the more I can support them when the time calls. So today's lesson is going to be, or episode is going to be a little dense, but I do just want to talk about some of the strategies that I use in front load at the beginning of the year to meet my kids and get to know them. If you are not getting to know your kids, if you do not know them, this is going to be hard. Again, focusing on last week's episode about high expectations in classroom management, they may not respect you, and respect goes a long way. I can get at my school, I have respect from fourth graders, kindergartners, third graders, second graders, but also the reason why they respect me because I'm a very strict teacher. Like I said, when it's time to learn, it's time to learn. But they respect me because I also have gotten make sure I know their name the first time. Okay, getting to know their name, asking them about things, praising them when they are doing well in my classroom. And so it just is, it's just my pedagogy is how I move through the world. I need to know students to educate them. Okay, so the first thing that I do, so I love to front load, and actually kind of in Oakland, they give us about a week. The first week is minimum days. So the first week is parent teacher conferences, right? And so I am making intentional meetings. I've already looked at their data. I also mentioned that in episode 2. I've looked at their data. I've looked at their attendance. I've looked at maybe or spoken with other teachers about them and what works for them, what was successful, what was not necessarily a good strategy. And so when the first week comes around and you're required to meet with me as an educator, parent teacher conferences is like a must. So I'm like adamant. And then I tell kids, you need to get your mama and daddy up in here, or whatever the situation is. So during the parent teacher conferences, I discuss We look at their data together, and I tell them sometimes parents have never seen their students' data, and kids might not understand their data either. I don't know if they remember it from the year before or they just never seen it. So I'm always showing them the full picture. So here's where you are. You may come in again in third grade at a kindergarten reading level, a first grade reading level, a second grade reading level, and a third grade reading level. And I say that is okay. Okay. But I also look at, because you can break down on iReady where they're having the highest level of difficulty. So phonics, vocabulary, comprehension and informational text, comprehension and literature. And so you want to make sure that students, that you're holding them all together. Okay. So you're telling them all of this information, but you're not overwhelming them. You're like, it's okay. Okay. Good. Oh, you know what? Although your phonics, it might be read kindergarten level or first grade level. Look at this comprehension. I don't know how you got the comprehension this high when your phonics and your vocabulary, but I can tell that you care, right? Or if I looked at somebody's data the year before and there are more than like 15 absences, I'm going to address that with the parent because I want to know what was the reason. So sometimes students come in and they might have missed like 50 days or more out of a 180-day school year. That's a concern. So what was happening? This is not COVID. This is not those things. So what was the concern? Okay. So they didn't feel comfortable. They didn't feel things were stressful. They were scared. Okay. Great. Thank you for letting me know. I really need to understand that so that I can help my student become successful. I really engage with the parent because I'll see that if a kid missed that many days, that they're lacking in somewhere, reading or math, right? And we need to absolutely get them up, get those scores up, get those grades up for their own success, not even just for iReady data, but for their own success. And for parents, I'm hoping that parents love their kids. So I hope that in collaboration, we can work together to get your child to school. Even if she's late, that's okay. Even if he's a little grumpy in the morning, that's okay. Let's make a goal in the beginning of the school year to get these children to school. And I promise I'll do everything in my power as an educator to alleviate any of the stress that they might have experienced in a previous year. So that's first. We look at some data, we look at absences, and we set a goal. Okay, so I ask the parents, what is your goal for your child? I ask the child, where do you want to be? How successful do you want to be? And then they set a mid-year goal, and then we set an end-of-year goal. And I do parent-teacher conferences every trimester, and we look at our data again. Oh, we jumped. My kids, let me tell y'all this year. I cannot express the frustration that I had at the beginning of this school year. I had a small class this year, only 17 students, okay, to start the school year. And 10 out of 17 of my students came in reading at a kindergarten grade level, okay? 5 out of 17 came in reading at a first grade reading level. 1 was second grade, and 1 came in at a third grade reading level. That is frustrating. I remember being upset, not with the students. I was upset with their lack of care and progression. 2 students had only missed 1 to 2 days in the past 2 years. They came to school every single day. 2 of my little ELL babies. And they were still reading at a kindergarten reading level. That is unacceptable. And that's not their fault. And by mid-year, they both jumped to second grade reading level. Again, method mothering. I have high expectations, but I give you the tools and I'm very nurturing so that you can be successful. And again, I'm nurturing to you individually. Individualized education plans are not always just for students on the learning disability scale. If we look towards Sweden, they make IEPs for every single student that are individualized towards them. So I make these plans and these goals with each individual student, and I check in with them. I ask them about their needs. I ask them how they feel about the learning process, and they give me feedback, and I incorporate it every day. Okay? So method mothering is really about getting to know your students, adjusting in the time, in the moment, to support them, holding high expectations for them, and meeting them where they're at. But also, again, zone of proximal development. I don't know if you guys know about that, but there's like a space where students come in at where they can read or do something at this level, and then you want to push them just a bit more outside of their comfort zone so that they are growing. They're not complacent and stuck in this easy pattern. You always want to expand that zone. And so the more you're building up their capabilities, their skills, their capacity, the more safe they, psychologically safe they feel in the classroom, the zone of proximal development continues to grow. I cannot express how proud I am of my students as of December, which was our last iReady test. It's May. I cannot express how proud I am. I remember I was actually out the day that they were taking their math iReady diagnostic, and I just kept checking it because I was out sick, but I kept checking and refreshing. And when I tell you, every student moved to yellow. They were at kindergarten is red with slash marks, black slash marks. So 3 grade levels below. And they all moved to yellow, which is 1 grade level. All of them moved to 2nd grade. I was so proud. But that's also because I adjusted to the needs of each student. I required more of them, and I praised them every time they did the work, okay? Everybody has to try. Everybody's responsible for their learning. And I had a small enough class this year, baby, nobody gets lost, okay? Everybody's, I got my eyes, I got here, there. And then again, we were working in teams. And so that's really important. So again, zone of proximal development, getting to know your students so you can address their zones of proximal development, and then meeting with their families, building up a community, as always, community, agency, respect, and engagement, having parents involved. Again, I have an open door policy, so please send your children in, or please come sit. If you have concerns, you can observe, and you can always text or call. Then I just want to start up like how I start my days. So part of mothering is the mothering part, right? So I mentioned in my first video, episode 1, that I have 3 H's: hugs, hellos, and high fives, period. Okay. And so if you don't feel comfortable physically hugging children, that's okay. But you can always give them a hand hug. You know, they put their hand here and then you put your hand there and it's a hand hug. Hello, always a greeting. I saw something the other day. They were like, I'm old school. When we walk into a room, you say hello. Okay. So I stand at the door every morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And they must say good morning back to their teacher. Good morning, Miss Whitney. Good morning, good morning. And if they come in late, first person they should look towards, make eye contact, good morning. And that's a requirement. I have to say, and I say their names, I look them dead in their eyes, each individual student, and good morning. How are you? Good. Thank you. And then again, I do the same thing as they exit. Like, I'm at the door. They're not just exiting my classroom. As they exit, good. You have your homework? Great. See you later. Have a great day. Have a wonderful afternoon. And they are so happy to say it to me now. We do a thing where at lunch, because I'll miss them, they'll be gone for about 40 minutes. We'll say, have a good lunch. And they'll say, have a wonderful lunch, Miss Whitney. And so there's just a lot of joy, greeting. And I also say, welcome back, class, whenever there's a transition back to class. So we're always in greeting mode, discussion mode, and just making sure that we are in the space together. And we want to acknowledge each other and really build up our relationship with one another. Again, another big one, and I think most teachers hear this, but starting fresh every day. Again, I don't have a lot of disciplinary issues in my class because I kind of nipped that in the bud early in the year. But I'm able to start fresh every day. I leave work happy and I come to work happy every day. So if there is an issue, again, I would like to address it before the day starts, like in that afternoon, or set up a plan. But I'm going to still try to meet your child where their needs are. And if I'm having a difficult student, please come talk. I will literally be like, come to the desk and we'll have a full discussion. And I say, what do you need to be successful today? And they'll may not know. I'm like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to offer you. You can go to a buddy room if you need a break. You can take an extra long break if you really need it today. You can go to the Peace Corner. Yes, but you need to be able to express that to your teacher, so that we don't have these same consistent issues. Okay, so we want to nip this in the bud, and I want to have a really beautiful day. So if you're having a hard time, please let me know, and then I'll come talk to you. But in the middle of a lesson or something, if something's difficult or you're feeling some type of way, okay, remind your teacher that you need space today, and I will provide that. Okay. And again, this is not an everyday thing, but sometimes kids just come in feeling some type of way. And so you want to support them in meeting their emotional needs, getting regulated. I may even have a friend, I'm like, okay, you know what? Can you guys go take care of that one? I might ask one student to go sit with that student in the peace corner or provide support if I'm in the middle of a lesson. And then I'll check in with them later. So we're always taking care of each other. That is a must. Getting to know your students, knows what motivates them, what harms them, and providing support so that they're successful every single day. Starting fresh every single day. It's a must, okay? And, there's a lot of play. I'm honest. I am a playful person. I am very high energy. That may not work for everybody, but it works for me. It works for my students. So I just incorporate things that are fun for them. And while we were running after recess, one of my students last year created a thing where if they run full force at me, the first one to get my hand first gets to hold my hand as we're walking back to class. Again, we have jobs, which are really fun, like hand sanitizer, so you get to go down first or all of those things. So I just like to make things fun. We have star student to reward wonderful behavior. I don't just say you did a good job. I'm very intentional when I tell them about the star student. We talk on the carpet every Friday about why that star student earned that award. They can give a speech. We clap it up, honey. I am praise. I'm the praise queen. I love to praise kids for wonderful behavior. Again, we have fun Fridays. That's a party every Friday. 2 o'clock to 2:45. I don't care. I've already taught you. And if y'all have done a wonderful job, and most of my students have consistently done a wonderful job, I've taken it away a couple of times. But if you have done a consistent, wonderful job, you're going to get 45 minutes of free time. If your parents want to buy treats, if I'm feeling special, if my bestie wants to buy treats, I'm going to front load you guys because I have high expectations. And if you met them all week, if you did the learning all week, if you engaged in community and respect all week and took agency over your learning all week, baby, you getting 45 minutes of play at the end of Friday, okay? Period, okay? We also celebrate every single birthday, period. I like a birthday. I love a birthday. We're going to celebrate you being in this world and being a student. So we're going to give you that love. I got a balloon blower. Kids are so simple. All you have to do is blow up a whole bunch of balloons and it'll be a party. But sometimes parents will bring for a donut party in the morning or pizza. I like to buy taco trays because let's mix it up. Sometimes just a piece of candy or something like that. And so it's just important to front load these kids with as much positive attention, positive reinforcement, positive narration, believing that they have positive intention to be successful. So a lot of teachers might think a kid is bad. There's no way. I have maybe one outlier in my whole career that was literally super traumatized and was bringing it to the class. There are kids who just need you to understand them. And then you as an educator should be able to find manners. And if you don't know, ask. Call me. Email me. Send a comment below. How do I work with this student? And I promise you, I'll help you reframe the mindset around these kids because they bring positive intention. And if they don't know a skill, like if they keep doing something, have you taught them the skill to stop doing it? And so I'm not, again, putting all of the onus on teachers again, but these are children and they are really malleable. If you build up their critical thinking skills, but if you get them and pour into them. I have kids who was like cursing like sailors, or kids who always hit, or kids who were just eloping from class every day. Okay, so number one, we don't use that language in this class. Let's be respectful. And if a kid's like, okay, but that's a habit I've built up and nobody's ever called me out on it. Okay, great. So I'm going to call you on it and I'm going to give you a little bit of grace, but we should be nipping this in the bud in a couple of weeks. Yes. And I've had a student do that, being like, it is a really bad habit of mine and I'm so sorry, and then they do, but they adjust. And I haven't had no cursing, for the rest of the year. If a kid is fighting, that is an absolute no in my class. Number one rule in my class, and you'll hear all the kids say, we do not fight, period. We do not fight. We do not fight. And fighting includes bullying. We do not use words aggressively or our bodies aggressively. And if it was an accident, we apologize. and we take care of them. Are you okay? How can I help you? I did not mean that. And we try to change that behavior. And that takes a lot of redirecting for students. So, yes, it might be frustrating because you're like, I have to keep saying this, but they have learned their other behaviors somewhere else. And so you need to, do you stop all your behaviors the first day? Do you stop the things that you know that you shouldn't be doing the first day or the first week? It takes, my mom always says it takes 6 weeks to build a habit. Some people say 21. My mom says 6 weeks. Whatever it is, it takes more than one day. It takes more than 1 week. And so you always are constantly, and then you want to positive narrate the kids who are doing the correct thing, right? So, oh, thank you for sitting down and being college ready for your teacher. Oh, thank you for raising a quiet hand. I appreciate that so much. So you're always positive narrating instead of constantly negatively speaking to kids. So they'll see that the other kids are handling their business, and then they'll want to be like their peers. So I don't have to say too much. Or their peer will be like, come on, you know Miss Whitney, you know what she wants. And so positive narration, having positive intention about children, letting them know that they're cared and valued for because you met them. And then also having understanding that, yes, sometimes they come in with bad habits, and just being really patient but persistent. Patience and persistent about changing those behaviors. It's fundamental. I literally say I can go into any class in America. I believe so. Elementary, not middle school, maybe not high school, but I can go into any elementary school class in America, and I can do all of this stuff because my systems work, my methods work, and I come in with the mindset that children want to be in school, they want to learn, they're proud of themselves when they do the work, and this is fundamental. So building these relationships, getting to know them, caring about them deeply, of being affectionate, is very powerful. It takes so much. It makes literally the rest of the school year so easy. And I don't like say easy, but for me, I front load relationship building and high expectations, and they meet them every single time. I'm so impressed. I literally have to do very little at this point in the year. Okay. So they just handle their business. Okay. And they take care of me. It's a wonderful feeling. And then again, just in the beginning of the year, if you're trying to figure out how to positive reinforce, stickers and tickets are wonderful. And I also really want to be clear, because I am a strict educator when it comes to the learning process, that sometimes positivity doesn't always work in that way. So there is a consequence ladder. So with that in mind, with the consequence ladder, I take away portions of recess. And it's like 2 or 3 minutes, and then hopefully they change the behavior so we don't have to do that. And it's really not taking away their recess. They'll have to stay behind and have a chat with me about their behaviors and have a discussion. I very rarely have to do anything that is severe, because kids do not want to lose their recess. They don't want to lose their fun Friday. And if you can't take away their recess, try taking away their fun Friday. They do not like that. They do not enjoy that. So the consequence ladder is effective. And then if my number one rule again in my class is there is no violence. I don't know why that's acceptable in these classrooms. Violence is not okay. I'm not a fan. And I'm adamant about that. I have no understanding. I understand if you came in the first week, but my number one rule is we keep our hands and our feet to ourselves. And we also use kind words with one another. I don't have any tolerance for violence. So, and that might be extreme for some people. There's too much joy. I love to say there's too much joy in my classroom. There's too much fun. There's too much activity, physical, mental, whatever, emotional, too much joy. So violence disturbs the joy. So if you are participating in violence, you are disturbing my joy and the joy of my other students. And that is psychologically unsafe for us and physically unsafe for us. And so therefore, you will lose access to parts of your recess in a very strict manner. And you will have to go do community service in a way around the school. You have to help students all the time. You have to go work with the younger kids. And I don't want to hear anything about it. I will discuss with your parents if they have an issue, but this is my classroom and I don't believe in violence. And students will say they hit me first. Understood. But Ms. Whitney, we all know Ms. Whitney's expectations. If somebody hits you, who's going to be in trouble? Them. But if you hit them back, you're both in trouble. But if you don't hit them back and you know to let your teacher know that they harmed you, then you are praised I'm your protector here. I'm the mother here at the school, okay? I care about your safety, and that student will have to put in the work and the labor and to repair the relationship that they've broken with their physical violence. But you did a good job. Thank you for telling your teacher. You may even be star student because we do not do violence, period. We are happy students who are here to learn. I know a lot of teachers have a hard time with kids and violence and bullying and using bad language. But again, if you build the relationships with them, let them know that you very much so care about them. You very much so care about their success. If you front load the relationship with the parents, the siblings, whoever is there, to let them know that the expectations of Ms. Whitney are high, that I care about your kid. And then that really, really builds their own understanding and care for themselves. They don't want to be hurt. And that might be a habit that, again, something that they're used to at home or in the community. But in this school, in this classroom, we are safe, we are loving, we are kind, and we care about another. I can't say it more than enough. We care and take care of one another. I thought that I was going to get to, and just finally, because of all of this method mothering, this nurturing, yet very strict consequence ladder and a very strong classroom management and high expectations. Zaretta Hammond talks about, again, I talk about the amygdala. So amygdala is a part of our brain that if an environment is not safe psychologically to learn, kids will not be able to process new information. They will always be, the amygdala will always be on attack. It will always be standing ready to go. And we really, again, Episode 1, classroom environment. Episode 2, classroom management. Episode 3, rapport building and positive narration and letting them know that violence isn't acceptable. And that is the way that kids actually can let go of their stress. They can come in happy, excited to learn, and then we can build and build and build. My kids, I'm proud every time. I'm so proud. They are doing the work. And I just want this for the rest of our kids. These systems are so effective that I shock myself sometimes. And that's why I'm like, I got to put it on recording or something because I'm shocked because it's effective every single time. Please get to know your students. Please have these classroom management styles. Please remove violence. And then I promise you, those grades will soar. I cannot be more certain. When my kids get their I ready or their SBAC testing back, I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to show y'all beginning of the school year, and I'm going to show you end of the school year. Last year, I moved so many students. It is my goal. My job as an educator to educate. I am not a babysitter. I want to teach kids to be academically successful and emotionally successful. And so these are the systems that work. I'm going a little long. I really wanted to get to Zaretta Hammond and the growth mindset. There's 4 components to it. I'll just touch on it briefly, but then next week I will deep dive it. So number 1 is a belief that learning is relevant. I talk to kids so much about how it's important for them to be readers and learners and to critically think. I talk about this all the time, and I'll give you some examples next week of the ways that I go about this. Number 2, engagement. So making sure that there's positive emotion around learning and that there's physical energy and curiosity, and you're creating kind of fun ways for them to be involved. Today, I did a math obstacle course. It was called Ocho Obstacles, and it went over, because we're at the end of the school year. So I went over the varying different standards that are required for 3rd grade educators. Multiplication and division fluency, distributive property, fractions, rounding. And there are different obstacle courses, but we were outside. They made teams, they made hats, and they had to do jump rope. After I said, what's 4 times 6? Or, I try to make it, or 24 divided by 4. And they had to jump rope 6 times. And if I had to do, division or multiplication, they just had to do physical exercise. They had to skip count on the hopscotch. skip count by threes. 3, 6, 9, and jump and do all that stuff. They had to do sevens and nines and fives and twos. All of this is third grade standards, but I made it into fun, physical moment. That's engagement. That's making it fun for these babies so that they can be happy about what they're doing. They designed their team. They came up with their team names. We have multiply, butterfly, and mythical mathematicians. And it's just really cool stuff going on. So engagement is amazing, okay? But we're also making sure that they got the standards now for third grade. I'm sending them off to fourth grade successful. Understood? Effort. So again, when they are put in a position to have to use a lot of their brain power, you want to keep sustaining the effort, and that they are internalizing that they might need to push themselves a little bit harder. Keep trying, keep trying. I had a girl who really was not doing well with math, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna go home and study my math facts. And she would come in and then she knew them the next day. She studied on her own. Nobody in her family helped her. I said, who helped you last night? She did, because she wanted to sustain her effort and push herself to be better. And then task performance, which is just basically putting all of that together and making sure that they understand that they can do the task and that they have the conceptual understanding of a new concept. So anyway, I'll go into that next week in a deeper level. I don't want these to be too long, but please, again, always put comments put something in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. I really have appreciated the comments that I had. I love hearing the stories about your classrooms or your engagement style. And please feel free to have any questions. Again, this is Method Mondays. The Red Method. My name is Whitney Red. I'm a third grade educator here in Oakland, and I'm having a very successful school year. So these are just some strategies. Again, rapport building, having a positive mindset about students, being persistent and patient, and I promise you, and it will get you very far. A lot of joys to be had. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful evening. Good night.